My phone buzzed on the table next to me as I slept soundly in my bed. I squinted my eyes enough to notice my mother's name appear on the screen. It was still early, and I could hear the birds beginning to chirp outside as the sun began to rise. I answered the phone. Grandma isn't doing very well. There's nothing to do right now. I'll keep you posted. Keep your phone near you. Should I come home? I asked. Not yet, she replied. I hung up the phone, put my glasses on, and walked out the front door to sit on the stoop of my cabin outside at Camp Newman. Still in my pajamas, I sat clutching my phone, waiting for the next call. Minutes, then hours went by. I waited and worried more and more as each second passed. Within a few hours, I packed my bags to head to the airport. Being with my family took priority over anything else that would happen that day. Yoni and I pulled out the front gate of camp and made it about 15 minutes down the road when the call finally came. Grandma died, my mother said. Okay, Ma, I'm on my way home. I'll be there in a couple hours. We drove back to camp to pack some more of our things, gave some hugs, and said goodbye for what we knew would be a long weekend away from the community. After the funeral and a few days of mourning at home, I returned to my summer home, Camp Newman, a place where death and dying does not often enter, where it is easy to escape the reality of pain of someone's death. But rather than encouraging me to escape from the pain, a friend of mine took the initiative to set up a minyan so that I could say Kaddish every night for my grandmother for the duration of the summer. The community that formed was distinct from the one that existed around me each and every day throughout the summer, and it was because of this community that I was truly able to remember and to feel lifted up by those around me. The hardest part was to go back to my real life a few weeks later and to be without that group by my side as I continued to remember and to mourn. That support system had been so powerful for me in sustaining me throughout this period, and I was fearful of what the next phase of mourning might look like without those people in that place. People have a natural need for community. We are born into a society of people, and from the very beginning of life, we need a cohesive group to support us in dark times, to celebrate our milestones and our simchas, to hold us accountable, and to teach one another as we grow. Community provides us with a sense of wholeness and peace, and gives us a foundation in which to root our values and build our lives. Just as I needed my community's support, so too did our patriarchs and matriarchs. In this morning's Torah reading, we read the Torah's first mention of Abraham's need for a community of his own. Abraham needs a burial place for Sarah, and he finds himself asking for help from strangers. The text reads, "And Abraham rose up from before his dead and spoke to the children of the Hittites, saying, I am a stranger and a resident with you. Give me a possession of a burying place with you, that I may bury my dead out of sight. And the children of the Hittites answered Abraham, saying to him, Hear us, my Lord, you are a prince of God among us. Bury your dead in our choicest of graves. None of us will withhold our grave from you, but that you may bury your dead. Abraham rose up and bowed to the people of the land of the children of the Hittites." Rashi expounds on this passage, explaining Abraham's use of the words ger and toshav to mean that he is an alien from another land who now resides with these people. In Rashi's explanation, he incorporates a midrash from Breshit Rabbah that explains that one cannot be a ger, a stranger, and a resident, a toshav, at the same time, and that it is the decision of the community to decide which role he should play. By presenting himself both as a ger and a toshav, Abraham signals his ambivalence towards the Hittites, but also how deeply he appreciates their offer to be included and supported as one of their own. In order to truly be comforted, he needed to establish a community for himself and locate a place to bury his wife according to his own customs. Sanhedrin 17b teaches a Talmid Chacham, a Torah scholar, is not allowed to live in a city that does not have these 10 things: a Beit Din that dispenses punishments, a tzedakah fund that is collected by 2 and distributed by 3, a synagogue, a bathhouse, a bathroom, a doctor, a craftsperson, a bloodletter, a butcher, and a teacher of children. In other words, a Talmid Chacham is not allowed to live in a city that does not have a community of people who are entrusted to judge each other fairly, to take care of each other, and to teach one another for future generations. It is our responsibility to take care of one another, and this text expands on this responsibility by specifying what it takes to support individuals and a healthy society. By creating a well-rounded, multi-layered community, we guarantee both a spiritual experience and the opportunity to build a vibrant and lasting society where the butcher is not just the butcher, the teacher not just the teacher. They are neighbors and friends, and together they are just some of the building blocks upon which their community depends to survive and thrive. It is this interdependency that makes disparate individuals into a rich community. We know that our congregants and students have many communities in their lives, but we also know that our Jewish organizations transcend the bounds of any school classroom or extracurricular activity. And unlike a soccer team or a ballet class, this specific community is based on principles and values of caring for each other. The difference is that we are based on commandments, and we are lifted through these heightened experiences day in and day out. We see the image of God in every individual, and our classrooms are infused with Torah study that enriches our souls. Our communities work together to strengthen and heighten the lives of each person who walks in our doors, and in doing so, teach how to be better people, rely on what we have learned from our history and texts, and work together to continue to educate one another. Rachel Kessler, director of the Institute for Social and Emotional Learning, teaches, when a group of students can acknowledge the truth, whether it is malevolent or benign, when they can meet where their personal stories strike universal chords, they become a community that can respond constructively to any challenge, even death. In essence, we educate with values so that our communities can take these into their other communities and continue to be the best people they can in our communities and in the world. What Kessler expresses so eloquently is our challenge and our charge as we strive to create community in our religious institutions and throughout our world, to create a place where people can come together and respond to whatever life throws their way, rooted in similar values and shared experiences. Ultimately, we educate for the purpose of creating and maintaining community, because that community imbues life with meaning, support, coherence, and belonging. We celebrate in good times and support in times of sorrow and despair as a collective. Mishnah Megillah teaches that we are only permitted to do the following when a minyan is present: say the Amidah aloud, read Torah or Haftarah publicly, comfort mourners, recite Sheva Brachot, and say Birkat Hamazon. We celebrate B'nai Mitzvah in a community, and we sit Shiva together in times of mourning. How often do we take for granted our built-in community in our weekly or even daily minyanim? There are people that are alone in the world, but our synagogues, organizations, and schools do not allow for that. And not only do they not allow that, but our laws and commandments obligate us to participate in that community and provide us with a sense of fulfillment in this world and the world to come. Rabbi Hillel reminds us that being a part of community is something we should consider of high import. We must cherish these connections and work to make the proper decisions in order to strengthen the bonds rather than to break them. We must continue to do our part to support the mourners and celebrate with bride and groom. The job of the community is equally as important as that of the person who is obligated to celebrate or to mourn. Part of our job as Jewish professionals is to be community builders. We are in a school that helps to guide us to become the best Jewish professionals that we can be. As professionals, we might think it our job to go out in the world and create, build, and take charge of what we might deem our domain, our synagogues and camps, hillels and hospitals, organizations and schools. But perhaps we can view it in a different way. Yes, we are on our way to becoming those professionals, having studied hard with the goal of taking what we know out into the world. But the world isn't ours alone. And we are a backup ensemble to a cast of many different types of lead players striving to create their own community, to build programs and learn and share with one another while attempting to form, strengthen, and deepen those connections. We must allow the space for each opinion to be shared, and we must open opportunities for all types of people that walk through our doors and those who have yet to enter. We must be able to say yes and to be challenged and continually learn and grow from those to whom we have said no in the past. Only when those communities exist do we, as whole communities, professional and lay people, have the potential to support each other in times of happiness and times of sorrow. And only then do we have the ability to welcome people like Abraham, who are searching for support from others in times of need to fulfill a void in their lives. Community provides all of us, our families, our congregations, our students, our participants, and the rest of the world with a sense of wholeness and peace. Community gives a foundation in which we are able to root our values and build our lives. But really, the essence of it all is what we read in Exodus. Ve'asu li mikdash v'shachanti betocham. Make for me a mikdash, a holy place, that I may dwell among all of you. Holiness appears in community, in the places where we pray, learn, and live together. May we work to build those holy places, those holy communities where all individuals find the support they need and the connections they crave. May we have the patience to build the communities that we as a collective need in our homes and on our way. And may we provide the space for those strangers who live among us to enter and find their own community for years to come. Sorayin Tovim.